In history's rich tapestry of tales, few stories resonate as deeply as that of King David's sons, a saga of ambition, betrayal, and tragedy. Picture a world where kings wielded power with wisdom and justice, where Jerusalem's streets echoed with celebration. Yet, within the palace walls, dark shadows lurked. David, a revered king with many sons, faced familial strife fueled by jealousy and betrayal. Meet Amnon, King David's firstborn son. The charismatic prince whose forbidden desires led to calamity, and Absalom, his brother, the envious son driven to rebellion. Together, their journey of love and betrayal unfolds, leaving a legacy of heartache and despair. Join me as we delve into the heart of this captivating tale, a story of love and loss, ambition and betrayal that will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very end. Welcome to the world of King David's sons, where the legacy of kings is written in blood and tears. In the golden age of ancient Israel, under the reign of the legendary King David, the kingdom flourished like never before. From the majestic city of Jerusalem, David ruled with wisdom and justice, his name revered throughout the land. But within the opulent walls of his palace, beneath the surface of prosperity and peace, a shadow lingered over his family. David, a man of many wives, had numerous sons, each vying for their father's affection and favor. Among them, two figures stood out, Amnon and Absalom. Amnon, the firstborn, bore the mark of his father's legacy, handsome, charismatic, and destined for greatness. He was born of David's union with Ahinoam of Jezreel, and from a young age, he basked in the adoration of his father and the admiration of his subjects. However, beneath Amnon's charming exterior lay a darkness that threatened to consume him. Despite being raised in the splendor of the royal court, he harbored a forbidden desire that haunted his soul like a festering wound. It was a desire that dared not speak its name, a longing that filled him with shame and guilt. Amnon's obsession lay with his half-sister Tamar, the gentle and beautiful daughter of David and Maacah. From the moment he laid eyes on her, he was entranced by her grace and purity, consumed by a love that dared not speak its name. But in the eyes of the world, their love was forbidden, a taboo that could never be spoken of. Meanwhile, Absalom, David's third son, watched with envy as his brother basked in their father's favor. Despite being blessed with his striking features and natural charisma, he felt overshadowed by Amnon's prominence in the royal court. From a young age, Absalom yearned for his father's approval, for the recognition and validation that always seemed to elude him. As Amnon's forbidden desire grew, Absalom swirled with envy, nursing his grievances in silence. He longed for the day when he would claim his rightful place as his father's heir, and he saw Amnon as a barrier to his ambitions. The seeds of envy took root in Absalom's heart, fueling his desire for revenge and setting the stage for a tragic conflict that would tear their family apart. Within the gilded halls of the palace, the stage was set for a tale of love and betrayal, of envy and ambition that would echo through the corridors of history for generations to come. As the days passed, the palace buzzed with the excitement of an impending celebration, the grand feast in honor of King David's birthday. The opulent halls were adorned with decorations, the air infused with the aroma of delicacies being prepared, and the atmosphere tinged with anticipation. However, beneath the facade of joy, a sinister undercurrent flowed through the veins of the royal household. Amnon, unable to contain the forbidden desire that plagued his soul, devised a plan to satiate his lust for Tamar during the grand feast. The palace was a maze of corridors and hidden corners, a labyrinth of secrets that held both the splendors and shadows of the kingdom. As the feast commenced, Amnon, with a deceptive charm that masked his dark intentions, requested Tamar's presence in his chambers. Under the guise of familial concern, he pretended to be ill, playing the role of a weakened prince in need of his sister's care. Tamar, unaware of the impending tragedy, willingly followed her innocence, a stark contrast to the sinister plot that unfolded. Within the confines of Amnon's chambers, the atmosphere shifted from familial concern to a chilling revelation of Amnon's wicked desires. He cast away the mask of familial bonds, revealing a darkness that shattered Tamar's trust. The room, once a sanctuary, transformed into a chamber of horrors as Amnon's actions defiled Tamar's purity, leaving her trembling and violated. Tamar, cast aside like a broken doll, fled from Amnon's chambers, her heart heavy with the weight of betrayal. Her pleas for justice echoed through the palace, reaching the ears of Absalom, who, in his quarters, listened with a mixture of horror and rage. In that moment, the bond of brotherhood shattered, replaced by a thirst for vengeance that would lead to a tragic spiral of bloodshed. Word of Amnon's heinous act spread like wildfire through the palace, igniting a storm of outrage and sorrow. King David, who had once reveled in the harmony of his family, now faced a crisis that threatened to tear the very fabric of his kingdom apart. Absalom, driven by an unrelenting fury, vowed to avenge his sister's honor. The seed of revenge, nurtured by the betrayal of his brother, took root in his heart, setting the stage for a brutal confrontation that would leave the palace stained with the blood of brothers. The feast had barely begun when Absalom set his treacherous plan into motion. Under the cover of darkness, his loyal servants descended upon the palace, armed with swords and spears. With ruthless efficiency, they slaughtered Amnon and his companions, leaving a trail of carnage in their wake. The palace echoed with the screams of the dying as brother turned against brother in a frenzied frenzy of violence and betrayal. In the aftermath of the bloody massacre that claimed the life of Amnon, a pall of darkness descended upon the royal palace of Jerusalem. King David, once a beacon of strength and wisdom, now found himself ensnared in a web of grief and despair. His eldest son lay dead, slain by the hand of his own brother, and the kingdom trembled on the brink of chaos. Yet, amidst the chaos and confusion, one figure remained strangely untouched by the turmoil that engulfed the kingdom. Absalom, the architect of Amnon's downfall, moved through the palace like a shadow, his eyes burning with a fierce intensity that belied his outward calm. Despite the enormity of his actions, Absalom showed no signs of remorse or regret. If anything, his resolve seemed only to strengthen in the wake of Amnon's death, his heart consumed by a burning desire for vengeance and retribution. As news of Amnon's demise spread throughout the kingdom, whispers of fear and uncertainty swept through the streets of Jerusalem. The people spoke in hushed tones of divine retribution, of the sins of the father visited upon his sons, and they wondered what other horrors might yet befall them in the wake of Amnon's murder. Meanwhile, Absalom seized the opportunity to further his own ambitions, rallying support from disgruntled factions within the kingdom. With honeyed words and false promises, he sowed the seeds of rebellion, plotting to overthrow his father and claim the throne for himself. The palace, once a bastion of strength and stability, became a hotbed of intrigue and treachery as rival factions vied for power and influence. Courtiers whispered in dark corners, plotting and scheming behind closed doors, their loyalty shifting like the sands of the desert with each passing day. King David, grief-stricken and heartbroken, found himself torn between his love for his sons and his duty to uphold justice and order. He knew that he must act swiftly and decisively to quell the growing unrest within the kingdom, but his heart rebelled against the thought of raising his hand against his own flesh and blood. And so, As tensions mounted and loyalties were tested, David found himself facing an enemy unlike any he had ever known. His own son, driven mad by envy and ambition, had turned against him, threatening to tear the kingdom apart in his quest for power. With a heavy heart, David marshaled his forces to confront Absalom and quell the rebellion that threatened to engulf the land. The stage was set for a final showdown, a battle that would determine the fate of Israel itself. But little did David know that the tragic end of his sons was drawing near, and that the bloodshed and betrayal that had already stained the kingdom would pale in comparison to the horrors yet to come. The tension in the air was palpable as the armies of King David and Absalom gathered on the battlefield, poised for the final confrontation that would decide the fate of Israel. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the blood-soaked earth as the clash of swords and the thunder of hooves filled the air. David, whose heart was heavy with sorrow, stood at the forefront of his forces, his eyes fixed on the figure of his son Absalom, who led the rebellion against him. Despite the betrayal and the bloodshed, David could not bring himself to raise his sword against his own flesh and blood. Absalom was his son, his beloved child, and no amount of treachery could erase the bond between them. But Absalom, consumed by his thirst for power and vengeance, showed no such hesitation. With a wild gleam in his eye, he spurred his horse forward, leading his troops into battle with a ferocity that bordered on madness. His heart burned with righteous anger, his mind clouded by visions of glory and conquest. As the two armies clashed in a fierce and bloody struggle, the fate of Israel hung in the balance. The ground trembled beneath the thundering hooves of the charging cavalry, and the air was thick with the sound of clashing steel and the cries of the wounded. Despite the overwhelming odds stacked against him, David fought with a courage born of desperation, his sword flashing in the sunlight as he rallied his troops to stand firm against the tide of Absalom's forces. But even as he fought, a part of him yearned for reconciliation, for a way to end the bloodshed and bring his son back into the fold. Meanwhile, Absalom fought with a fury born of desperation, his heart consumed by rage and bitterness. He knew that defeat meant death, and he would not go down without a fight. With every swing of his sword, he sought to carve a path to victory, to claim his rightful place as the ruler of Israel. But fate had other plans for the rebellious prince. In the heat of battle, his horse stumbled and fell, throwing Absalom to the ground with a bone-jarring crash. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as he lay there, dazed and disoriented, his mind reeling from the shock of the fall. And then, in an instant, everything changed. Absalom's long hair became entangled in the branches of a tree, leaving him hanging helplessly in midair. His enemies closed in like hungry wolves, their swords gleaming in the sunlight as they prepared to deliver the final blow. David, witnessing his son's plight from afar, felt a surge of anguish and despair wash over him. In a voice choked with tears, he cried out to his soldiers, pleading with them to spare Absalom's life. But his pleas fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the clamor of battle and the roar of the crowd. And so, in a cruel twist of fate, Absalom met his end at the hands of his own ambition. As the blades of his enemies descended upon him, he uttered a final, desperate cry for mercy, his voice lost amidst the chaos and carnage of the battlefield. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded into silence, David knelt beside his fallen son, his heart heavy with grief and regret. In that moment, he realized the true cost of his pride and ambition, the toll it had taken on his family and his kingdom. The tragic end of King David's sons would haunt the land for generations to come, a grim reminder of the fragility of power and the destructive force of envy and betrayal. And amidst the ruins of their shattered dreams, the kingdom of Israel would strive to rebuild, guided by the lessons learned from the tragic fate of Absalom and the other sons of King David. The aftermath of the battle left the kingdom of Israel scarred and broken. The streets of Jerusalem were strewn with the bodies of the fallen, and the wails of mourning echoed throughout the land. King David, once the beacon of hope and stability, now stood amidst the ruins of his shattered dreams, his heart heavy with grief and regret. As he surveyed the devastation wrought by the conflict, David's thoughts turned to his fallen sons, Amnon, whose life had been cut short by his own lust and folly, and Absalom, whose thirst for power and vengeance had led to his tragic demise. In their deaths, David saw a reflection of his own failures as a father and a king, a reminder of the consequences of pride and ambition unchecked by wisdom and humility. But amidst the despair and devastation, there was also a glimmer of hope, a chance for redemption and renewal. For even in the darkest hour, the light of God's mercy still shone bright, offering forgiveness and healing to those who sought it. In the days that followed the battle, David turned to God in prayer, seeking guidance and solace in the midst of his grief. He confessed his sins and shortcomings, acknowledging the role that his own pride and ambition had played in the tragedy that had befallen his family and his kingdom. And in his humility, David found redemption. With a contrite heart, he sought to rebuild what had been lost, to mend the broken bonds of kinship and trust that had been shattered by betrayal and bloodshed. He reached out to those who had been harmed by his actions, offering words of comfort and reconciliation to those who had suffered at his hand. Slowly but surely, the wounds of the kingdom began to heal. The people of Israel, weary from years of conflict and strife, turned their eyes towards the future, hopeful that peace and prosperity might once again reign over the land. As for David, he ruled with wisdom and compassion in the twilight of his reign, seeking to atone for the sins of his past and to leave behind a legacy of justice and righteousness for future generations. And though the scars of the past would never truly fade, they served as a reminder of the enduring power of forgiveness and redemption, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. And so, the tragic end of King David's sons became not only a cautionary tale of the dangers of pride and ambition, but also a story of hope and redemption, a testament to the enduring power of love and forgiveness to overcome even the greatest of tragedies. And amidst the ruins of their shattered dreams, the kingdom of Israel would rise once more, guided by the lessons learned from the mistakes of the past and determined to build a brighter future for generations to come. The tragic tale of King David's sons serves as a timeless reminder of the destructive consequences of unchecked ambition, envy, and betrayal. In our modern world, the story resonates with poignant lessons that remain relevant today. Firstly, the story underscores the importance of humility and righteousness in positions of power. King David's downfall, in part, stemmed from his failure to reign in his own pride and ambition, which ultimately led to the unraveling of his family and kingdom. This serves as a cautionary tale for leaders in all walks of life, reminding them of the dangers of hubris and the need for humility and integrity in their actions. Secondly, the story highlights the destructive power of envy and betrayal. Amnon's unchecked desires and Absalom's festering envy ultimately led to tragedy, tearing apart their family and plunging the kingdom into turmoil. In today's world, where competition and rivalry are often rampant, the story serves as a sobering reminder of the need to foster empathy, cooperation, and mutual respect in our interactions with others. Furthermore, the tale underscores the importance of seeking forgiveness and reconciliation in the face of conflict and strife. Despite the tragic events that unfolded, There were moments of redemption and healing, as King David sought to atone for his mistakes and rebuild what had been broken. This serves as an example for us all, reminding us of the power of forgiveness to heal wounds and forge a path towards a brighter future. Ultimately, the story of King David's sons offers timeless lessons about the complexities of human nature and the enduring power of love, forgiveness, and redemption to overcome even the darkest of tragedies. It encourages us to reflect on our own actions and relationships, and to strive for humility, integrity, and compassion in all that we do. We love hearing from you. If you're new here and found this video intriguing, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you stay updated on all our future videos. We have plenty of fascinating topics lined up just for you. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.